and but just the energy about it, and not Elijah Muhammad, but Louis Farrakhan gave a speech in the early teens of the 2000s about um, how Malcolm was a traitor, and so my question is, will we ever have that like atonement? And in my humble opinion, the only atonement can only come from uh Louis Farrakhan, and I think Louis Farrakhan got to should have a conversation or write a letter to Louis X. You get what I'm saying? Like, because he was around that energy, and the energy is well documented. And I just want because you may have that Christian brother who say, well, Elijah Muhammad did A. Louis Farrakhan supported Elijah Muhammad and turned his back on um, Malcolm X. And then you have Muhammad Ali, who said the worst thing he's ever done in his life was turn his back on um, Malcolm X. So I think the atonement is what black men are really seeking as it pertains to that. I'm not sure if I'm making sense. I may not be asking a question, more of a statement, but I just hope and pray like one day he's 87 years old. Hopefully, as you say, Allah bless him many more days to come. But I'm also pragmatic about life on earth. That can happen, because once Louis Farrakhan is gone, I think a whole generation is just going to run with a narrative A, going to run with narrative B, and it's never going to have any like solid documentation from primary sources.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that candidly, Brother Fred. And I don't know if you know or not, but last year I published a volume, about maybe 320 pages. And it's the first book addressing the assassination of Malcolm X from the Nation of Islam. And I would encourage you to get a copy of it, and I would love for you to read it, and share with you or share with me your feedback.
It's on Audible. I'm listening to books now.
Unfortunately, it's in print version.
Okay.
But I do this for you, brother, for your kindness to me. If you get a chance, just inbox me a mailing address, and I'll send a complimentary copy to you.
No, I always pay. I don't want nothing free. No, I don't want nothing free, man. God has blessed me to give and support others,
Well, I appreciate it, but yeah. I would love
to buy it. Yes.
Really your feedback, because I think that when I was listening to you, having studied it, I hear much of the
yes,
I hear the pain, but I also hear that the narrative of many young people have, that it only comes from the mainstream and that side, and has not had any consideration for the other side and for other facts.
Sure.
And one thing I would just say that many people don't even know, and I have found many people don't know, that Minister Farrakhan did host a reconciliation event, one with the daughter of Malcolm X, Atala Shabazz,
I watched
and
that.
two with the wife of Dr. Betty Shabazz at the Apollo Theater, which, pause for a moment to reflect of the backstory to that. Minister Farrakhan had been told by the FBI that Malcolm's daughter was conspiring to assassinate him. And instead of Minister Farrakhan buying that, he said, I don't believe Brother Malcolm's daughter would sincerely be trying to take my life. And so he reached out to her mother and held a fundraiser. And they held a fundraiser at the Apollo Theater that raised $250,000 for the daughter of Malcolm X and Malcolm's grandson. And there was a reconciling there with Dr. Betty Shabazz and Minister Farrakhan. And many people don't know this. I think that what again is missing is for the world to be given the opportunity to hear from the Nation of Islam on this subject, because the only reason that, as you point out, there was a war of words between Brother Malcolm and the nation that was carried out through the Muhammad Speaks was because the public statement being made by Brother Malcolm in the public demanded that the Nation of Islam rebut and refute Malcolm's statements in the public. And what I was saying earlier presupposes that, you know, if we have beef, we should keep it private. But the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said this: if you make a mistake in the private, we can correct it in the private. But if you make it in the public, then we have to correct it in the public, because now you have created an audience for our disagreement. Another aspect that people fail to appreciate, because if you ain't never been in the nation,
Yeah.
and you don't really understand the psychology of people who believe as we believe, and especially at the time when Malcolm had been the one who trained everyone how to defend the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Malcolm was the best defender of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad in those days. And so when Malcolm began to publicly oppose the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, then everybody reacted the way Malcolm had trained them to react, to defend the most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And we document in our book some sources. We have over 400 sources. We document that Malcolm was actually on his way back to the nation. We also trace the current persecution of Minister Farrakhan by certain Jewish organizations back to those same groups persecuting and dogging the trail of Malcolm X. And we talk about what was Malcolm going to say the day he was assassinated, and how that factored into that date being chosen for him to be assassinated, and how there was this partnership between J. Edgar Hoover and the Anti-Defamation League of B'nai B'rith, and how this false charge of anti-Semitism that dogs the trail of Minister Farrakhan today first dogged the trail of Malcolm X, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Dr. King. And so these are other factors that are involved, that as Minister Farrakhan has called for opening up the files, because through the Freedom of Information Act, they've only released certain files. And Bossy, which was the intelligence service of the NYPD, they have yet to release what they have. So what's left? The public narrative of the Nation of Islam. Well, you know, that kind of fits, you know, because in the Black community, we kind of used to, you know, us arguing and fighting and killing one another. But it's always skillful on the part of our government to hide their hand and to lay the blame on those who really are the victims. But we document this. We go into the whole issue of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's domestic life, the whole Malcolm's epiphany at Mecca. And I know we don't have time for it tonight, but I would love to come back.
Yeah, you come
we
back.
could just do a whole show, and you could just ask whatever question you want on that subject of Malcolm's assassination.
I have a million and one questions. You know what I mean? Because this platform is strictly for like a safe haven for Black men. And I don't care if you're a Black Jew, an Israelite, a 5%er, Nation of Islam, Sunni Muslim, Christian, atheist, or somewhere in between. You know, I think is where honesty should reside, you know, and a lot of the times I'm wrong. I just happen to push the live button, you know. A lot of times maybe DB's wrong, but I think that this is one of the few safe places in the world where Black men can come together, and no one is above each other. You know, I just push the live button. You know, socioeconomics is out the window when we come into the barbershop every night. You know,
you got a beautiful platform, brother. And I encourage you, because as I stated, you're doing a great job, because we are I'm seeing every day that censorship
Oh yeah.
is encroaching in America. And I remember Minister Farrakhan saying once that America is as corrupt as she has been. Her saving grace up to this point has been the provision of free speech.
Sure.
Because that means that even if the government goes off course, the provision of free speech gives room for her to be corrected. But when free speech is being censored and silenced, then we really are moving towards an authoritarian kind of government, even though we may say democracy from our lips. So your work, brother, giving us an opportunity and a platform to freely express our ideas, pro, con, agree, disagree in a brotherly environment is very commendable.
Yeah. I know DB wants to follow up.
Yeah, let me jump in here, man. I'm over here feeling like a little kid, man. I'm on.
Can I get these super chats out the way, though, please? Please, because I'm holding.
My brother Kenlon Jones had a super chat, and I wanted to get it out before it faded away.
Yeah, definitely. That's why I wanted to get it out.
Gotcha. So my brother Kenlon Jones said, Brother Muhammad, I'm a Christian brother, and I attended the 10-year anniversary of the Million Man March in D.C. in 2005. I draw a contrast of how we were all united as a family compared to the recent events in D.C. And then there's one more. You can answer them both. And for my brother Reggie Owens, he said, what was the purpose of suspending Dr. Khalid for his speech at King College?
Well, I'll take the second one first.
Gotcha.
Minister Farrakhan explained his suspension of Brother Khalid and his King Khalid message, and it's actually on YouTube. We did a press conference. So I would just say go there and watch it and get it directly from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. But also keep in mind too, a lot of times, get into the internal workings of a community, a nation, an organization being put into the public. And now people who are not even a part of it, they're casting lots or, being armchair quarterbacks about things that, they only know a bit or part of. And so when you don't have a comprehensive knowledge of a thing, it's easy to make a judgment. And I heard the minister say once, and I think it's good counsel for us, say ask questions, which my brother did, and I'm glad that he asked that question. He said ask questions and refrain from making judgments. I can tell you to the second question, the recent events in DC certainly contrast against the several meetings that we had in Washington, D.C. We were assembled by Minister Farrakhan in 1995, in the year 2000, in the year 2005, and the most recent one was 2015. And all of those gatherings were very peaceful. Also, Minister Farrakhan said, don't leave no trash on the mall. And so the mall, we gathered, we left, and you couldn't even tell anybody had been there because we took our trash with us. But what we saw a few days ago in the recent political climate, is nothing like what we had. That's something totally, entirely different. And, I don't want to get too far into that right now, but it really speaks for itself, what we saw and all of the things that have happened after it. And so you're right, my brother, to draw a sharp contrast between the gatherings held by Minister Farrakhan and the recent gathering held in Washington.
And on the mic with Terrence Bailey says, why is it hidden that hundreds of thousands of slaves brought were Muslims forced into the white version of Christianity? Why does religion, and part two to that, why do religion start so many wars?
Well, I would say it like this. From my study of history, the greatest fear of European colonialists and enslavers was the presence of Islam among their slaves. On May 11th, which is actually the birth anniversary of Minister Farrakhan, in 1526, the Spanish crown issued forth a decree that literally forbade importing any Muslims into the New World. And of course, along with England, Spain was one of the chief enslavers. And so they feared Islam because Islam, as a spiritual force, brings the believer into it by proclaiming the universal creed, La ilaha illallah Muhammadan Rasulullah. I bear witness that there is no God except Allah, and Muhammad is his messenger. Well, chattel slavery makes the slave master in the position of God. So a Muslim can never comfortably accept a position in chattel slavery. And so wherever they were found to have insurrections, rebellions, and uprisings among the slaves, when they went back and did the forensics, if you will, they found that there was a Muslim somewhere inspiring such. And so it was around 1744, after much quarreling, because in truth, the teachings of Jesus, is really the same as the teachings of Muhammad. So no true follower of Jesus can actually comfortably accept their lot in life as a slave to anyone but God. So they actually had to doctor up Christianity before they gave it to us. And many people will tell you that they argued back and forth because the argument was this: according to the Bible, in Christ, there's no Jew, there's no Greek, there's no bond, there's no free. All are one in Christ. So they correctly theorized that if they baptized their slaves and allowed them to become Christians, according to the Bible, you then have to free them because he's your co-equal in faith. And there were certain parts in the British Empire where there were reports that slaves who had become baptized were freed. Well, in America, they argued amongst themselves, and so they finally concluded the only way we will allow our slaves to be made Christians is if we stipulate that just because they have become a Christian does not guarantee their freedom and independence. And not only did they do that, recent archaeological discoveries have found what they call the slave Bible, which was basically a redacted Bible with all of the militant chapters and verses excised from the Bible before it was given to our enslaved foreparents. So really, true Christianity and true Islam are militant faiths that enslavers had to be very, very careful about how they allowed them to spread among the enslaved.
DB?
Sorry, I was on mute, so my sound
you said you biting your bit. Go ahead. We got. How much longer do you have, man? How much longer do you have, Demetric?
Brother, I'm snowed in here, so man, as long as y'all want to go.
Okay. I'm like,
with you.
I'm like, DB, let me get in 4 more questions.
I don't have a time limit, brother.
Okay. All right. Good. All right. Thank you.
All right, I won't ask too many more, but I want to turn it to some music a little bit. So we talked about Brother Malcolm, and we also talked about Dr. Khaled. We have the Malcolm of hip hop, which is Tupac, and we have the Khaled of hip hop, which is Nipsey. Did you ever get a chance to meet Pac and Nipsey, work with them, counsel or politic with those brothers at all?
I did not. I'm like a lot of people. I had heard Nipsey, of course, I knew a lot about Pac, but I heard Nipsey just on features. And so upon his passing, I get a chance to finally hear the whole, project, and I was blown away, man. And I really hate that I was not into him prior to, but he was a very powerful brother, man. And it hurts me that he was taken from us, because so much of what Minister Farrakhan has worked for, so much of what his Western region representative, formerly Minister Tony Muhammad, Brother Abdul Malik Saeed, has worked for, Nipsey Hussle typified that. He was an embodiment of that. And it's painful, and it echoes back to what I was referencing earlier, is we got to begin to see each other as brothers, man, and make the last, I mean, just it got to be in our psyche that if we can't get along with a brother, man, let's just separate and part ways. But don't take his life, man. Don't
Right.
take his life.
Man, true that.
Yeah.